So I want to talk a little bit more about this Jonathan Major story, and I want to bring up a comparison to Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller, of course, played the Flash in DC, and Ezra Miller got into some pretty hot legal troubles before the Flash even came out. And of course, Jonathan Majors was found guilty on two minor counts, but still he was found guilty. Disney pulled the plug on him being Kang the Conqueror. I'm still kind of bummed out about it. At the same time, it's, it sucks. It really does suck that this actor's real life drama, whether it's entirely his fault, partially his fault, we'll talk about that more in the video. It's unfortunate that it costs us as fans a chance to see this guy perform, but it is what it is. Hopefully, he'll get his life squared away going forward, and people love a good redemption story, so maybe he can come back if he gets his life straightened away. Now, I want to discuss some of the differences between Ezra Miller and Jonathan Majors, because I've seen some people say, well, Ezra Miller wasn't fired as Flash. Ezra Miller's movie still came out. Well, there's a couple things we should talk about. First of all, The Flash was already done when Miller was doing his things. That Flash movie was finished. Well, okay, it was finished shooting. They were still doing visual effects work, but it was done and ready to go, and then Miller committed his crimes. So DC figured, let's just release the movie and then worry about it later. Now, during that time is when the James Gunn power change happened, and James Gunn had said that The Flash was supposed to be an important movie because it's supposed to reset the DCU and take us into reset the DCEU and take us into the new DCU that's going to be supervised by him. Now, that movie flopped. And the Flash flopping, whether or not it was because of Ezra Miller or not, I'm sure that was something to do with it, although I've talked about why it's not fully that. But because of that situation, it was easy for Warner Brothers to say, you know what? The movie flopped, this guy's trouble, let's pull the plug. Now, because of the reboot, they were probably going to get rid of him anyways. The difference is they didn't publicly announce it. Now, why didn't they publicly announce it? Because DC's not going to publicly say, because of the Flash flopping, or Warner Brothers, because of the Flash flopping, we're getting rid of this guy. Because it's bad optics. It makes them look bad. We all know the Flash flopped, but the casual audience doesn't follow box office numbers. They can look it up, but they don't follow it. So they just kind of quietly just said, okay, we're moving forward without the Zack Snyder era actors, meaning Gal Gadot and even Jason Momoa, who now they're saying he's not going to come back as Aquaman and he's going to play Lobo instead in the future Superman movie. Now, the whole Gal Gadot thing, there's been different opinions on that. I don't want to get into that right now at the sidebar, but the idea here is they were going to really get rid of the Flash anyways, and they needed the Flash to be like a reboot of the DCU, but George Clooney is not playing Batman in the new James Gunn DCU. So I don't know why they added that scene at the end. It wasn't supposed to be Clooney, it was supposed to be Keaton. DC and Warner Brothers have been an absolute mess. I've talked about it a lot, but the difference between that and Jonathan Majors is that, first of all, Ezra Miller never went to court. I believe he settled with the people who he harmed outside of court, paid him money or something. It just never went to court. Should it have? I would say so, but I don't remember hearing anything about it going to court. With that being said, the situation still affected Ezra Miller's career because Ezra Miller, I don't think he's doing anything soon. I haven't seen, I don't follow his career too closely, but from what I've seen, there's been nothing about him doing any big movies. So it's like Hollywood knows this guy could be bad news. Now, that to me it's different than the Jonathan Majors thing. Instead of Jonathan Majors resolving this outside of court or maybe even settling with his girlfriend, they went ahead and fought it. Now, some have said that this was a mistake. Others have said that maybe the lawyer he picked wasn't that good. And others have said that this could be a race thing. Now, I want to go into that for just a moment. This is not a channel that covers politics. It's not something we talk about on here. It's too divisive. But I know that some people have differing opinion. Well, everybody has a differing opinion about systematic racism. Some people think that cops and lawyers and judges, that a lot of them are racist. Some think that not a lot of them are racist. Everyone has their own sort of, it's a spectrum. Some think it's like 80%, some think it's 40%. I'm not going to go into that because there's no hard evidence to prove if somebody's racist or not unless they do something outwardly racist. Now, from what I understand, the jury was about 60% black, I believe so. And they all pretty much found him guilty on those 2 counts. So, it's one of those things where I'm not sure if you can point the finger and say that a racist attorney or a racist cop or a racist judge screwed him. I'm sure there's a way you can do it. I'm just not willing to do that without a bit more information, a bit more evidence that's the case. Now, the other thing I've seen brought up a lot is, well, Marvel was quick to pull the plug on him. Why didn't they give him another chance? It wasn't a major crime. It wasn't a felony. Why didn't they just give him another chance? I get all that. Let's not forget there have been other actors who have had historically bad histories who have been kind of reincarnated or resurrected by Marvel. The biggest one being Robert Downey Jr. Don't forget this guy was a troubled, guy for many years. Alcoholism and drug problems and all kinds of stuff. He got over it, cleaned himself up, and during the time he was with Marvel, he was, as far as we know, right as rain. So they've done situations like that. Now, the thing is, with Jonathan Majors, this was a criminal trial, very publicized. And the issue is, there were people asking Robert Downey Jr. about his previous problems when he was still playing Tony Stark. And there's even interviews on YouTube you can see of him sort of walking off of some of the interviews. But it came off very disrespectful and disingenuous. He knew how to handle it, but it wasn't like it was being brought up. The issue here with Majors is that Disney didn't want the actor to be questioned about this trial, guilty or not, because he was about to be the major villain and be in several red carpets for upcoming Marvel projects. Not just the Avengers movies. There's probably other things he would have been there for. He would have done tons of Q&A and press, and it may have been brought up. It's bad optics for them. Now, would I have gotten rid of him? I don't know. I really don't know. I do own a business, and while I do understand, I completely understand Disney's willingness to drop him and move on because they don't want any bad optics. They're going to get some bad optics. You're going to have fans, even some of you, who think this was unfair. As far as there being a racial thing about him getting cut, again, there's not enough evidence. Every time that something bad happens to a black person, you can't say it's racism. All of my black friends agree with this. Every single one. And I'm part black, but I'm pretty light-skinned. If you've seen what I look like, many of you have. But I mean my black friends that are darker skinned. They that are full black or half black or whatever. Many of them don't jump to the race card because sometimes that's not what it is. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. You have to look at other context clues to figure that out. So I don't think it's a race thing. I think Disney was already we had heard the rumors. That rumor about Doctor Doom was no accident. We had been hearing about how they wanted to move away from Kang, but they weren't sure yet. They were going to keep an eye on the trial. We had heard that they already are thinking about and making plans to replace him in the future if necessary, but they weren't going to jump the gun. Now, the good news is this. For Disney and fans, Disney has time to rethink their strategy. And when I say Disney, I mean Marvel. I mean Kevin Feige, not Disney the corporation. I mean just Marvel and Kevin Feige. They can actually, now that they've decided to do away with Kang, I'm guessing what they're going to do is have the TVA reveal that, well, we got all the variants, so the story's over. That's my guess. Basically, Ant-Man and the Wasp, instead of it being a lead into Avengers, is going to be a lead into Loki Season 2. And they'll probably have some scene where the TVA will say, yeah, the variant's taken care of. We're good. We're good to go. And that's it. We're not going to hear from Kang again. It's unfortunate because I really wanted to see more of Immortus and Ramakut and all them, but it wasn't meant to be, and it kind of pisses me off. I'm not going to lie to you as a fan, but whatever. I like Kang in the comics, and I like Jonathan Majors as an actor, but this happened. It happened, end of story. All we can do now is move forward. But the idea of them getting rid of him, they already had their finger on the button. They already had their finger on the button. They were waiting for to see what would happen, because if Majors was not found guilty, if he was found not guilty, they would have continued with the plan, but still been trepidatious because of how Kang has not really connected with fans like Thanos did. Now, I don't think they've given fans enough of a reason to connect, but that's neither here nor there. Not as much as you would think, right? Well, I also think that part of the problem here, and what's a good thing about them, is now they have time. Next year, the only movie we have coming out from the MCU is Deadpool 3. That gives them more time, plenty of time, to try to figure out what they're going to do about this. Whether they're going to put Doom in as a replacement, whether they're going to actually recast Kang. I'm hearing now that's not going to happen, that Avengers Kang Dynasty is now being renamed. We don't have the final name yet, but it's being renamed. And it also seems like if they recast is one thing, if they move on from it, something else, but it still gives them time, so that way all the anger can kind of die down, because people that are angry at Marvel right now for cutting Jonathan Majors, they're going to get over it in time. This is just how the world works, guys. People are going to be mad for a while, and they're going to be all over social media. I've seen people do it. I've seen people throw the race card out there. I've seen all kinds of different things. People are going to be mad and angry and furious, and they got time, because Kang Dynasty is not coming out, or whatever, Avengers 5 is not coming out for a while. By the time that movie comes out, there will already have been a trailer. There will already have been other MCU movies that will hopefully course correct. There have already been more things involving the X-Men and more things to get hyped over, that I think little by little fans will slowly forgive them and come back if the product is good. If the MCU can get back to where it was during Phase 1 and Phase 2, where they are building the characters properly, and that's a big if, because it hasn't been that way for Phase 4 and 5, but if they can get back to that going into Phase 6, then there will be some more excitement and people will be hyped up again. That's just how it is, y'all. Like, people will move on from it. Let everybody be mad for a year, but by the time we actually get to, if Deadpool 3 ends up being really, really great, then I think people will slowly begin to forgive, and then little by little, people will start to come back on the train if Marvel delivers good stuff. But now the pressure's on. Marvel's going to have to really deliver. None of this BS. None of this freaking Marvel's crap and these directors. No. Get refocused. Figure out what you're going to do. Get back to storytelling and character development. And get these characters over, because Avengers Secret Wars could end up being a nominal event even without Kang. Although I wish he was in it. Hey, it is what it is. It could still be a massive event, and maybe probably will be a massive event. I don't know if it'll touch Endgame, because that was a special time in all our lives, but it'll come close. Maybe No Way Home territory, maybe right below it or above it, if they can properly build this. But they have to have all hands on deck. So those are my thoughts. What do you think? Let me know down below.